I believe I brought my travel insurance papers, my passport, driver's license as a secondary passport in case my passport, say, got stolen or lost, and then a student ID card was all that I really brought.
Key pieces of information about inoculations that you've had. Some countries require inoculations getting into the country, so make sure you've got that documentation. If you wear eyeglasses, carry your prescription with you. If you are living with some kind of illness or disability that requires medication, make sure you've got prescriptions with you, and ideally that you're actually traveling with enough medication to last you for the time that you're away. If you're going into travel from one country to another, you may also need visas for different countries, and ensure that you have those visas. Oftentimes they're embedded in your passport, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're pieces of paper, so make sure that you have those with you as well.
Well, this is just an obvious one. You obviously need your passport.
Don't lose your passport.
Bring your ID, bring your driver's license. You don't know, maybe you're going to need to rent a car or want to rent a car somewhere, and you're going to need your driver's license for that. So just bring it anyways. You bring the extra ID.
Health insurance, travel insurance. I bring ID. If you're going to be renting a car or scooter, bring your driver's license and an international driver's license.
I brought a little booklet that had my history of which immunizations I had. And depending on where you go, I know some places, if you're coming from an area, say with like dengue fever, to get into another country, sometimes you need proof that you've had that immunization.
There's a fellow on one of our trips who he lost his passport, and that was a huge, huge hassle for him. So make sure you bring photocopies of your passport, all that sort of stuff.
Financial information, to have in a separate place. Phone numbers for banks, credit card numbers, bank card numbers.
You need to have everything, like even pieces of paper that seem like they're not useful. You need to have everything, because if you don't have what you need, they'll turn you away and you'll miss your flight. So, for example, what I needed was proof that I had accommodation in Germany, and that I had medical insurance, and that I had a school I was going to, and that I had a return ticket coming home.
I brought photocopies of everything.
You're going to need multiple copies of everything.
Yeah, copies of stuff and extra passport photos for things like visas, and even sometimes you need them to get into different sites. Angkor Wat, you needed a passport photo.
Just remember that if you get stolen from, if a pickpocket takes your wallet, you can lose a lot at once. So have duplicates. Have two versions of your debit card. You can walk into a bank, tell them what they're doing, and most of the time they'll just give you a second debit card, and as long as you bring back the duplicate once you're done. This is incredibly useful. As well, have duplicates of all of your important information. Your vaccinations, your passport, your student card, maybe even plane tickets. Have anything important written down somewhere else. And don't keep the duplicates with the originals.
My rule of thumb is when I'm traveling, every time I move locations, before I leave from the new location, is I make sure that I've actually touched my passport. One time I didn't do it and I left it on a plane. So I'm really encouraging people to make sure that you know where your passport is all the time. And secondly, make sure that you've got copies of the page with your photo on it in a couple of other places in your luggage. So if the worst case happens, you lose your passport or somehow your passport is taken from you, then you've got ways to get a copy of it and get to a Canadian embassy or Canadian consulate to get a short-term passport to carry on with your travel.
What immediately comes to mind is to have documents not just for the trip as a whole, but also in-trip. and that particularly to have hotel information, travel information. Again, this is more contingency, but if you were to be lost, if you were to be separated from the group, do you have in possession the information that allows you to connect back up with the group? So phone numbers of instructors, addresses, phone numbers of hotels.
You're definitely going to want to bring your student card. That's one stupid thing I didn't do on my first trip, and that's going to save you a lot of hassle and a lot of money when you're going into different tourist attraction places. A lot of places will cut 50% off the entrance fee. I know in Egypt, the Mummy Museum was I don't know, a couple £100 for the regular person, and it was like 50 for a student, and I didn't have my student card, so that kind of sucked.
International student cards. Yeah, in part depends where you are traveling, but is quite a nominal fee, and is something that for so many students can be used for future travel as well. Think completely optional, but is at least something to consider. Can get you some discounts.
Not in Mexico. They may be more helpful somewhere else, maybe in Europe or something, but in Mexico I didn't find it helpful at all.
At the International School of Management, they'll give you your own student card there. And so I didn't need an international student card at all.
International student cards, they're not that useful in the EU if you're not a student in the EU. I never encountered any sort of thing in Asia where a student card would come in handy. But other parts of the world, research it before you go, because you can get pretty good discounts in some places.
Student cards in another country, they're only useful in very specific parts of the world. This is something that you should research. For instance, our North American student card isn't super useful in the EU or in Asia, but in the Middle East, it's amazingly useful, or if you're traveling more domestically. Make sure you research the kind of student card and papers that you need before you go.